My name is Mariann Frank, and 2 weeks ago when Ruth Gruber was visiting me in MAD, to be honest, I didn't even know about the conference, and she aroused my interest to register the conference, so I did it. And last Wednesday, it turned out that Rabbi Kovesh unfortunately had to cancel his presentation, and I'm replacing him now as the project leader of the Footsteps of the Wonder Rabbis project. So I'm very honored to be here and very happy to present the project. So, about our location. So we are located in the northeast part of Hungary, in the Tokaj region, which is a UNESCO heritage site since 2002. The Tokaj wine region is famous of its wine, of course, surrounded with the beautiful Tokaj hills. The Jewish history of the Tokaj wine region goes back to the 17th century. Sorry, I totally missed the arrows. Okay, sorry. Goes back to the 17th century. That was the first time when Jewish wine merchants came to the region. They discovered the wine of Tokaj, which was actually famous of its sweet wine, so-called the asu. In the 17th century, the reason they came were just to have a business with the wine. They came, they bought the wine, and they take it back to their wine roots, which was basically Poland and Ukraine. It was Galicia that time. In the 17th century, they were not able to settle down in Hungary, but in the beginning of the 18th century, they started to settle down in the area. So in the beginning of the 18th century, the Jewish community was spread in the area. Actually, the Tokaj region counts 27 towns. And among the 27 towns, we are talking about 11 towns that they had major Jewish communities since the 18th century. Because most of the Jews came from Galicia, that time among the Jewish communities, Hasidism was very popular. So the rabbis, the leaders of the Jewish communities of this area, basically they were Hasidic. Just to talk about the Jewish population of the area, of the county, or of our project, which contains 10 towns of the Tokaj region. Most of the Jewish population of the Tokaj region's towns were 30% of the total population. If you see the FOWR, it means the Footsteps of the Wonder Rabbis project. If you can see, the number 8,787 was the number of Jews before the war in 1941. And right after, you see the number 909 in 1949. That number today, close to zero, because all the towns in the Tokaj region has no Jewish communities anymore. But as you can see, that all the flourishing Jewish communities left a large number of Jewish historical sites behind, which remained in the countryside. So when in 2012, when European Union is founded, a race to give money to remain the Jewish heritage site in the area, the Unified Hungarian Jewish Congregation is signed up for this fund. Actually, they won this money, and they created the project called the Footsteps of the Wonder Rabbis, which collects the Jewish heritage site in the Tokaj region. The aim of the project, first of all, to preserve the historical sites and to revive a dormant Jewish community, and to make these values reachable to all. Here in this map, you can see the main towns which are connected to the routes. First of all, we find out that all these cities are small cities. Our location are in Mad, the town called Mad. This town is so small. Today it has 2,200 inhabitants, so it's really small. But out of in Mad, we have a beautiful synagogue and a yeshiva, which was a rabbinical school since the 18th century. And actually, part of the project was just two construction. One of the construction was to renovate the yeshiva in Mad. I will tell you later. And the other reconstruction was in Olaszliska. Olaszliska is also a small town in Tokaj region. Today it has 1,700 inhabitants, no Jews at all. As I mentioned, there are no Jewish citizens are living in the Tokaj region today. So the first construction started in Olaszliska. You can see the ruins of the once it was synagogue in Olaszliska, which after the wall was taken by the local government. The local government sold the synagogue, the building itself, to a private owner. And the private owner actually sold the synagogue brick by brick to locals. So when we found the spot, as you can see it on the right photo, that was the only part remained from the synagogue. That's the eastern wall where the Torah scroll should be. And we had this idea, of course, not to build back a synagogue, because the synagogue would be not used for anyone, but to create a memorial place for the Jewish communities of the Tokaj region. So as you can see on the other photos, there is we placed a prayer to the Torah cabinet spot, and also we created the bima, but we left the whole roof open. So actually it's an open air space, and we just built the front wall of the once it was synagogue as a memorial spot. On the wall you can see the name of the towns which are connected to each other. Actually, this spot can be visited by anyone, but also because in Olaszliska there is a great wonder rabbi is buried in a local cemetery. It's a pilgrimage spot for those who are coming back to remember the great tzaddik, the great rabbi of Olaszliska. So it's very interesting to see that all the religious visitors that they are coming, they started to use the memorial place, this memorial spot, as a memorial place for when they are coming back. So they are actually praying in the spot of the synagogue. So this is the synagogue in Mad. This synagogue was built in 1795. This is one of the oldest synagogue in Hungary. Actually, the synagogue itself, it was renovated not by our project. It was renovated much before by the Jewish Heritage Fund New York, with the donation of the Jewish Heritage Fund New York, and with the Hungarian government's donation. So when they finished the renovation in 2004, and the Hungarian government was taking care of the synagogue. Since 2012, the Unified Hungarian Jewish Congregation is started to lease the synagogue from the Hungarian government. So that's why they were able to add the synagogue into the whole project. So actually, the synagogue is now the part of the footsteps of the Wonder Rabbis project. In the next slide, you see next to the synagogue, there is the yeshiva, which was the rabbinical school of Mad, a very famous rabbinical school. In its time, in the middle of the 19th century, it was approximately 200 yeshiva bochers, yeshiva students were studying in the yeshiva. Actually, this building today, it became the center of the footsteps of the Wonder Rabbis project. When we started to put together the project, we knew that it's going to be very hard to bring people, because we are talking about very small place. And as some other speakers before me already mentioned, that when you are talking about a town where you don't have so much touristical attractions, it's quite hard to bring people in. So we were really thinking how to make this place successful. So we gave a multiply function to the yeshiva. So it was not just a restoration of a building just to be able to show it to people, or to place an exhibition where people can come in and see the exhibition and then go. But we were thinking forward. So the multiply function of the building itself, so I was talking about the exhibition. We created the exhibition, which is part of the exhibition is stable, but we have lots of interactive elements of the exhibition, because the building itself, it's quite small, so you have not so much place on the wall to hang everything on the wall or just put things down. So we find out if you use interactive elements, then you can add much more information. We created accommodation into the building, because MAD is part of the religious pilgrim routes, a pilgrim center for those that they are coming back to remember the great rabbis' memorials. So actually, we can give accommodation to those who are coming to this pilgrimage route, but since this accommodation is up on booking.com, so anyone can come and stay in our accommodation. We have a family research center. When we started to get involved with this project, we did a major research. Actually, we used lots of data. We used censuses. We used lists of the deportations from the area. And also what we did, we listed all the cemeteries in the area, and also took all the data from the grave sites. We translated it into English, and we designed a search engine. So we put all the data into this search engine, so whoever comes to look for their ancestors or look for a specific grave site, they are just type the name in, and they are able to find either the grave site or either their ancestors, the history or the story of the ancestors. So that's our Family Research Center. And actually this, of course, it's not done, because since we are receiving all the descendants, we are adding all the data that we can receive for all those who are coming to our Family Research Center. We are also an education center. We have a program for school students that they are able to come here. We have 1 day, 2 days, and 3 days, let's say, packages. And as I mentioned, that we have an accommodation as well, so it's perfect for them to discover not just the Jewish historical sites or just the Jewish culture, but also the whole area, the whole Tokai area. And the education center is, we are talking about two sides, because we are receiving non-Jewish schools from all over Hungary, but also we do receive the Jewish schools from Hungary. They, of course, they have these different aspects to come to our spot, because the non-Jewish school, the reason they are coming, because they want to know more about the religion, more about the Jewish culture. Of course, this we don't have to teach for those who are coming from Jewish schools. The reason they come here, because they can learn more about the Hasidic culture, learn more about these great rabbis that were in the area. And also we are an event spot because we organize different events. For example, we have so-called an open Shabbat every summer in the first weekend of July. I think the name says it all because it's open Shabbat means that we very welcome everybody who's interested of whatever going on in Shabbat. But since this is a religious event, we have, of course, a rabbi who holds the whole event with the meals, with the Shabbat meals, with all the meals that it needs to be eaten in Shabbat. So it's very interesting. One important thing I didn't mention that we started to put together the project in 2014, so it's quite new, and we opened last year in 2016. So we only have 1 year experience in whatever we are doing. Here you can see in the next slide, on the left side, that's the part of the exhibition. Actually, that's the room of the rabbi. That's the area which is also the exhibition area. And the reception desk, we also find out that all the areas what we have, it's not stable. We always rearrange it when we have different subjects. So first of all, when we are expecting visitors, we are an exhibition. We are open every day. We have an opening hours from 9 till 4. But for example, when we are receiving religious groups, we rearrange the whole spot because we have to use it for another reason. Here you can see some of our accommodation. We have one big room with 16 beds, which is perfect for the school students. They are really like it. It's very colorful. But it's also perfect for the pilgrimage tours because most of the religious pilgrims that they are coming to the area, they are men. So they don't mind to sleep in one room. Just to give you an idea, this year we held the memorial day of the death of the great rabbi of Bodrog Keresztül. He died 100 years ago, and 9,000 pilgrims came, 95% from Brooklyn, of course. And just imagine in a small town with 1,700 inhabitants, they received 9,000 religious visitors. So that's what we also have to take care of to give all the background for what they are coming from. For example, organize kosher food, organize the accommodation, which is we still have to develop because it's still not enough. But because they are coming just in a certain time, in a certain year, it's not like you can, open big hotels because it's not worth. So you really have to think forward what to and how to use all those spots what you create for these pilgrims. So as you can see that we have very wide target audience. As I mentioned, we have the religious groups. This is in our yeshiva in Mad. They came for the yard site of the great rabbis of Mad. And the other photo, they are standing next to the synagogue of Mad. They were just daily visitors. They are coming, they are praying in the synagogue and they going. Before, a couple of years before, when there were no accommodation, no kosher food, actually they bought their plane tickets from Brooklyn. They flew to Budapest. They rented a cab or a private car. They drove down to our area. They made their prayers in the gravesite. They sit back to the car and went back to Brooklyn with the next flight. But today, because we have now everything what they need to stay for longer time, they do. So they come for Shabbat. They held Shabbatons in the area. So they stay longer now. We have the genealogy tourism I mentioned. we have lots of families that they are coming back, and they're looking for the story, the history of their ancestors. They bringing the children, the grandchildren, and actually, and we are able to help them, because before we were not there, they were not able to ask anybody in the area what they were looking for. Actually, because we are in the wine area, we can serve the wine and cultural tourism as well. They are very happy to come and to be introduced to the Jewish culture. As I also mentioned that we are accept school groups, Jewish and non-Jewish school groups. We are very happy to welcome researchers that we can help with their work. And the other main issue is how to reach our target audience, how to get them to come to meet us. So first of all, we are building up relationships with local tourist service providers. It means that we introduced ourselves to local hotels, local restaurants, local museums. We put all our brochures and our information about our whatever we're doing there. So it's since 1 year, it's a very fresh new project, but it's working. So they are sending the guests, they are sending the tourists, same as we do, back and forward. By presence in local and thematic events. It means that there are many wine events, many wine festivals. We are always there. We are renting our booths in these festivals. It's called the Footsteps of the Wonder Rabbis. We are always there. So we are telling about the whole story. So if they are already in the area, they knew about the synagogue, the museum. So after they finish drinking wine, they can come to visit the Jewish heritage site. By direct marketing, of course, we are search for domestic and overseas travel agencies, Jewish organizations, schools, event organizers. It meant that we did a big research on that matter. So we contacted them, we let them know that we exist, we send them our materials, and we still on the stage of building up these relationships. By organizing our own events, I already told about the event that we are organizing, but we are also organizing cultural events because we have the beautiful synagogue, so we do organize concerts and other cultural events as well. And what is also important, by building up cross-border relationships with similar projects, because we are very close to Ukraine and Romania. They have similar projects in that area, so it's very important to connect to all these, to share our experience and to give them a chance to get to know us. Actually, that's the end of my presentation, because I know that we are running out of time, so thank you so much.